Ooh, ah, ah. Ooh, ah, ah. Ooh, ah, ah.
Welcome back, Beerlievers, to the Don't Stop Beerlieving podcast. I'm Chris. That's Michael. Thanks for tuning in to our final episode of season 1. It's been a great ride these last 3 months. Can't believe it's been 3 months.
Can't believe it, guys. Beerlieving.
Can't believe it. But we appreciate all the support that we've gotten so far on the show. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, and we can tune in next week.
What's next week?
I'm kidding.
You're ending the show?
It just sounded like you're ending, so I was just...
Goodbye. The episode is now over, apparently. No. But we do appreciate all the support we've received, all the comments and suggestions we've got, all the different challenges that Michael has given us that you guys have completed, all the videos you've shared, reviewing different types of beer. It's just awesome to see the engagement and the collaboration. So let's keep that going for season 2.
Oh, yeah.
But before we get into the topic for this week, and then maybe give a recap of kind of season 1 and what we talked about. Obviously, there's a lot going on right now, both in the beer industry as a result of the virus that's going around, and we want to maybe just talk a little bit about what we've seen breweries. How we've seen breweries react to this.
Sure.
Obviously, guys, health is first and foremost the priority here. Please make sure that you guys are all being safe and taking care of yourselves and your loved ones. In times like this, though, we think it's important to continue the show and to put out content. We all could use a laugh now and then, and some entertainment. And obviously, we want to keep the knowledge share going and keep the conversations around beer going, because a lot of these businesses need our business right now.
Correct.
But yeah, I mean, Mike, we've seen a lot of stuff happen with local breweries and unfortunate events, and a lot of things canceled and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure. So if you guys remember, we were going to go to the St. Patrick's Day party at Guinness, the Open Gate Brewery up in Halthorpe, Maryland. And earlier this week, they released a statement saying that they weren't going to have the celebration, but they were going to still stay open for normal business hours and having people still come in. And so we were still planning on going. Unfortunately, late, I think Friday evening, they released another statement saying that they're just going to close their doors indefinitely until things kind of figure themselves out, hopefully. And I think that's been a reaction from a couple places. Diageo, the owners of Guinness, can afford that, but places that are smaller independent craft beer breweries are trying to stay open as long as they can. And you can imagine why. I mean, these are small businesses that they take a weekend off, they're going to feel that. They take 2 weekends off, 3 weekends off, holy moly. So
it can certainly be felt.
Right. And, my brewery that I work at, Manor Hill Brewing, as of now, is staying open. Of course, we're taking extra precautions. One of them being we're using single-use cups. So every time we do serve beer to a customer, they're served in plastic cups, which we dispose of immediately afterward and serve in a new cup for your beer. And every time we interact with the customer at all, we're washing our hands and we're sanitizing everything. So it's a little bit more work, but we want to make sure that you guys feel like you have safe space to continue to consume our products. For other breweries, though, if you're not feeling safe about coming in, definitely still patronize these places. Or is that the correct word? Patronize?
Patronize.
Continue to be a patron to these places, and even if you're not going to stay, you come in and buy a quick 4-pack, 6-pack case of beer if you really want to hunker down, and just continue to support your small local businesses, because they do feel it right now.
At times like that, it's important, I think, to stimulate the economy. Right? We need those small businesses need support. They need that revenue, and there are a lot of breweries that will be hurting from this. But to Mike's point, if you can't go into a brewery because it's closed, find a way to get their beer either at a local grocery store that sells their product if you have a distribution locally, or a bottle shop or something like that, and just drink it in the comfort of your home, because that's a great way you can continue to support the breweries that you may not be able to go into due to the closures, or just don't feel like it's safe to go in. So obviously, if you do decide to go into a brewery that is open, know that they're taking all the precautions necessary. to keep it sanitized and healthy and safe prior to going. And I know all the breweries are doing that. They've released statements and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But if you don't feel comfortable, and I think that's the most important part, make sure that you are, just staying safe at home, and you can get these breweries beer at local places.
Yeah. And one brewery I do want to shout out real quick is one that is feeling a little bit more hurt right now, is Peabody Heights Brewing in Baltimore City. Some people decided to throw rocks at their window this past week, and that's just more money that they have to take out of their even lower income now. Yeah. So they released a statement asking in earnest to just keep coming in and buying their beers. Guys, I know we're all getting a little frustrated. We're getting a little home cooped up and
cabin fever.
Cabin fever. Come on,
We don't need that. We don't need people throwing rocks through breweries' windows. But,
come on.
Yeah. Well, continue to be safe. Continue to drink beer, though. That's what we're here for.
Yep.
And we're going to do so, and hopefully we can provide some fun content along the way.
Yeah, sure.
So, Mike, what are you drinking today?
Sure. So, if you guys don't remember, I am a lover of hazy IPAs, and my roommate, my roommate actually remembers that. And when he went to go visit Leesburg, stopped by Vanish Brewing, which is a Farmwoods brewery that does actually a lot of. One really fun thing, it's like 30 plus beers on one flight board.
Oh, gosh.
So it's a great place to go with friends. But I'm drinking Fire IPA, Fire Emoji IPA, which is like a New England style. So it's your hazy, crisp, slight bitterness IPA. I love this one because it has a persistent pillowy head on it. I don't know if you can see, I've been drinking a little bit, but a persistent, like, nice foam to it. So it's very visually appealing, which I'm actually huge about when I'm drinking IPAs, hazy IPAs, the visual. Beautiful color on it. I do recommend. Yeah.
It's a great can too.
Yeah, I do like that.
We'll maybe post a picture of this can so you guys can see it better. But it's just a beautifully done can, and it's cool because they have the like the ABV and the ounces, like little text messages on the phone there.
Brilliant.
It's awesome.
Brilliant.
And the can, I love the matte finish. We were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
I know the Gondor Calls for Haze had a similar label. Really well designed, but the matte finish I think just looks great.
You like the matte finish?
I do.
Nice little grip,
Yeah, it's a beautiful can.
Yeah.
So you said this is out in Leesburg, right?
Out in Leesburg, Virginia. Like, I guess, like a little south of Point of Rocks or so.
Got you.
Yeah.
We'll definitely go make a trip if you guys ever get out that way.
Yeah.
Harkening back to the first episode of season 1, Mike, we talked a lot about where you saw the industry, the craft beer industry going.
Sure.
Talk to us a little bit about what we've seen. We've seen a lot of the predictions you made regarding, I think, styles and hops kind of come to fruition here the last 3 months.
Yeah. So if you guys don't remember, back in January, for the first episode, we gave our kind of like pulse of the industry. And back then, and still now, I'm learning. And I'm learning about the industry. I'm trying to monitor it. But throughout these 3 months where I'm able to, this is my job now, to watch the industry and see how customers and consumers are reacting, I made some predictions, and I think at least one of them, maybe two of them, came true. Back then, I was saying that we're going to come back to the IPA style. Breweries are going to be churning these guys out. Maybe not like it was in 2016, 2014, churning out like the IBUs, churning out the triple IPAs, just, insane. But we did, if you guys look at your tap list, see an uptick in IPAs released from breweries, and specifically ones that were playing around with New Zealand hops. We were seeing New Zealand and Australia, really. We were seeing the Motueka hop, Rakau. There's a Waiti I see every once in a while. There was a release last week, and I think a release next week for using these hops. So let us know in the comments below if you made predictions and if they came true. Let us know if you guys actually have been seeing IPAs, if you believe that my predictions came true, and if those IPAs were using those New Zealand or Australian hops. Take a look at your favorite brewery's little menu and see, or just ask your brewery's brewers and see what they were using in their IPAs.
Yeah, and this is something we want to do pretty much every season, right? Kind of get a quarterly update on what the industry looks like. And see whether or not predictions that Mike has for the industry come to fruition. It's kind of cool to just keep tabs on where that is. And one of the articles, actually, I saw an article from beveragedaily.com, which had a lot of information from, I think it was a year ago. So this stuff is a year old, but the data for this kind of a thing doesn't change too often. It was the top 50 breweries in the U.S. by sales volume. Okay. And out of the top 50 breweries in the U.S., 40 of them had the designation of craft breweries.
That's awesome.
That was awesome to see.
That's really cool.
In the top 10, I think there were only 3. It was Sierra Nevada, Yuengling, and which we can get into in a second. No, it's kind of interesting to think of Yuengling as a craft brewery.
Right.
I forget the other one. Maybe it was New Belgium or something. But it's interesting to me that there are so many craft breweries out there that we don't think of as craft breweries. And I think a lot of that probably is a little bit of ignorance in regard to what craft beer actually is. And I know we wanted to get into, maybe clarify and redefine what craft beer is for people.
Right, yeah. So when you guys think craft beer, do you guys think Yuengling? Because you should.
You should.
Apparently. Yeah. So according to the Brewers Association, craft beer means that the brewery itself produces less than 6 million barrels a year annually, and also is 25%, or at least 76% owned independently. So if 25% of your company, of your brewery, is owned by another entity, especially a larger entity, and also you produce more than 6 million barrels a year, you're actually not independent. But Yuengling is owned by its own stock owners, and also only produces like 2 million barrels?
Not even. I think it's like 1.2 million barrels. Yeah, a year. Yeah.
The oldest production brewery in America, independent craft beer.
And it's one of the largest too. It's one of the largest independent productions, I think, up in Pottsville, PA.
Pottsville.
It's a great brewery visit as well. They give a great tour. You can see the production. They have a great tasting room as well. It's actually very, very cool. But yeah, I think from my perspective, right, I initially never thought of craft beer as something that was defined so specifically.
Right.
As the average consumer, I consider craft beer to be almost like a intangible, smell test that you could have had about a brewery or a beer. It's like, oh, is that okay? That's a common beer. Oh, must not be craft.
Yeah.
Not necessarily what it actually is. I'm curious to see what the market. How the market reacts to maybe that mindset penetrating a little bit too much of the craft beer scene.
Sure.
Because there are two perspectives, right? You can have people that really stick to that definition from the Brewers Association, and I think it's probably the correct thing to do. But then you can also have people that maybe don't know as much, don't even know those metrics, and make assumptions of a brewery based upon, again, that smell test. What do they think about the beer? Do they think it's craft? Has it been around or too popular now to be craft?
Yeah.
And that can be a little bit of a fine line, and maybe even a dangerous line to walk as we talk about craft beer.
Yeah.
You mentioned, and I've seen this as well, a lot of comments on a lot of the beer pages we follow on Facebook where somebody will be like, oh, is this beer even craft anymore? Because XYZ reason. And then there are a lot of people respond immediately, especially beer enthusiasts who know what they're talking about, being like, look at their numbers. By definition, this is a craft brewery still.
I mean, if you asked me 2 years ago if a beer was craft or not, basically my metric was, have I ever heard about it before?
Yeah.
Because if I haven't, probably. If I have, most likely not. I've heard about Yuengling. I drank Yuengling a lot, and I always thought that it was, big beer. But no, apparently not.
Yeah, I think there's a big difference and differentiator between craft brewing as an industry and like even the microbreweries and the small breweries that are maybe experimenting a bit more. You don't have Yuengling coming out with these crazy hazy IPAs, right? They do one thing and they do it really well. Obviously they have other beers, but we have to differentiate that and separate that from the definition of craft beer.
Yeah, so
and obviously we're trying to cover the whole spectrum.
Right. But from now on, now you guys know when we're talking about craft beer, we're going to be using the Brewers Association metric, and using that as our baseline where we're talking about that.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap up season 1 here, we just want to again thank everybody for watching and for listening. We appreciate all the support. Please continue to give us suggestions and comments as we go into season 2 here. Quick plan for that. We'll be off next week, and we'll come back strong starting in April, 2 weeks from now.
Correct.
With season 2. As a reminder, we had a great episode last week.
Yes.
With the St. Patrick's Day special. If you guys haven't had a chance to watch that, we'll link it above for you guys.
My favorite episode of season 1, really.
Such a great episode.
We were just talking, so we were doing this in collaboration with Stupid Fat Hobbits podcast, which is actually one of Chris's other podcasts.
Yeah.
But the guys over there, Johnny and Pat, and us were just having a great time talking through St. Patrick's Day traditions, the history of the celebration here in America, and also comparing what you should be drinking. So I was leaning towards Irish Red Ale over the conversation between Irish Red and Stouts, but Johnny and Pat, they're focusing on seltzers. And that's just something that we've been talking about throughout basically this entire season. And we were at a party yesterday where we were the only ones who brought beer. We brought Guinness to a St. Patrick's Day party. Everyone else brought seltzers.
Yeah, there was like 4 different types of seltzers there. It's like, what's happening?
Right. What's happening? And I guess, that's just the trend these days. Everyone's looking at calories. But honestly, that's kind of something that we were trying to debunk yesterday too. Guinness, what is that, 125 calories in a beer? Everyone's like, oh gosh, it's got to be like 150, 175, 200.
Oh, there were people putting out numbers of upwards of 400 calories for a Guinness.
And we're like
that's their guess.
Yeah,
assumption.
well, because people see, and this is a thing that's just in general, they see a darker beer, they always think it's higher calories. Granted, it's going to have more carbs than a seltzer. It's but seltzer it runs you 90 to 100 calories. Comparably, like 25 calories for better flavor. I think
I'd take that every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Right.
Yeah, that was a great episode. Again, we'll link that for you guys. I think my favorite episode was the beer psychology episode.
Oh, okay.
I love the idea of where you drink a beer impacting the experience and even the taste, like psychologically.
Yeah.
That's why I love Irish pubs, and that's why I love having bonfires and drinking around bonfires. There's something intangible about that really does impact and influence your experience.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's just one of my favorite things. So that was my favorite episode.
We'll definitely talk a little bit more about beer psychology then in season 2.
Oh yeah,
it's something that's growing as a knowledge field for this industry. Is how we feel, like emotionally, is going to affect how we taste, and also when we're describing our flavor perceptions in a beer, realizing that. Working through our memories, working through our experiences is what helps us describe a beer. Knowing that going ahead will help you just figure out your vocabulary a lot sooner. So we'll talk about that a little bit more.
Well, let us know what your favorite episode of season 1 was. We'd love to hear it. Again, that'll give us some great feedback going into season 2. But we cannot wait to get back at it and get all the stuff that Mike's got planned for those next episodes. We're ready to go. We got some awesome segments, and we'll do more beer tastings and more topics. So please stay with us. And as always, you can find us on Facebook at Don't Stop Beerlieving. You can like us on Instagram. And as always, send questions and comments to don'tstopbeerlieving@gmail.com. And with that, we will see you all in 2 weeks for season 2.
Cheers.